Welcome to the finale of Season 20 of Lord of the Rings Online. You will notice that I'm back in my customary Hobbit outfit here, away from those wintry clothes that I had to endure for Wildermore. I am here at the border of Western Rohan in the Sutcrofts because that's where the adventure is going to take us next. Season 21, Western Rohan. If you remember, we were doing some of the epic storyline many episodes ago, and we were last left off here, where we're able to speak with Hunbald to continue back into Western Rohan after our exile. So there's that. Before we get going, I do want to point something out. I did level up to level 95, and that's while I was doing all of the deeds that I'm going to be going over this episode. So that's why it looks a little bit different than last time. No need to concern yourselves there. Didn't do anything off screen that, wasn't captured, or I won't be going over this episode. So before I get started with the finale, at level 95, I did unlock this quest, Introduction to West Gondor. It's going to take me a while to get there, but I do want to accept the quest, or else it's just going to keep popping up every time I log in. You have been summoned by the Lady Eowyn for West Gondor. Is likely in need of your aid. You should meet Eowyn in Dunharrow. Definitely not ready for that yet, but I will be tucking that away for a different time. So that's for volume 4. I'm still in volume 3. So anyways, there's that. Okay. So you kind of know the drill for the finales. I go over all the deeds and reputations for Wildermore and talk about a few other things. But before we get going, I do want to make a plug. So I know that if you're watching this series, obviously you're a big fan of Lord of the Rings. And there are many different types of media out there that you can consume Lord of the Rings content with. So for example, there are the movies, there's the animated movies, there's all sorts of spin-offs and fan films, and there are games, of course, countless Lord of the Rings games. There are all the Tokien books. And so, if you're anything like me, you've probably consumed a lot of that media, but nothing really quite got that excitement that you got experiencing the story for the first time. Well, I'm here to say that I consumed a piece of Lord of the Rings media recently that brought me back to that same feeling the first time I first experienced Lord of the Rings, and it was absolutely magical, and I would like to share that with you and make a plug for it. So, what I recently went through was an audiobook of Lord of the Rings, and I know what you're thinking. An audiobook, how can it be that great? It's just somebody reading the text for you. But I'm telling you, it brought me back, man. It brought me back to that same feeling you would get when the new movie would come out. Do you remember sitting at the theater when The Two Towers or Return of the King came out and the trailers were playing and you were waiting for the movie to start the first time? That's what it felt like. And so this audiobook is... Gosh, man, I forgot to write the guy's name down for my little spiel here, but I think his name is Phil Drogosh. Either way, I'll probably have that name pop up on the screen. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it here. But he produced it, and he added a lot of different sounds and used the musical score from Howard Shore, and it just created such an immersive experience. It was amazing, and I highly recommend all of you guys go check it out. It's something easy you can do, put it on your way to work. You'll thank me later. And to really sell you on it, I do want to play a little excerpt from the audiobook just to really get you hooked. And I deliberately chose a passage in which absolutely nothing is going on. So you'll notice if you're paying attention that it's just a passage talking about the Lord of the Fellowship walking around doing nothing. And the reason I chose that passage is because it sucks you in, even though nothing's happening. And if you can just imagine, if he does such a great job with something like that, imagine all the cool action scenes where lots of different things are happening, like the Siege of Minas Tirith and the Battle of Helm's Deep and Moria and so on. Anyways, enjoy this short clip.
As they spoke thus, the company filed slowly along the paths in the wood, led by Haldir, while the other elf walked behind. They felt the ground beneath their feet, smooth and soft, and after a while they walked more freely, without fear of hurt or fall. Being deprived of sight, Frodo found his hearing and other senses sharpened. He could smell the trees and the trodden grass. He could hear many different notes in the rustle of the leaves overhead, the river murmuring away on his right. and the thin, clear voices of birds in the sky. He felt the sun upon his face and hands when they passed through the open glade. As soon as he set foot upon the far bank of Silverlode, a strange feeling had come upon him, and it deepened as he walked on into the Nath. It seemed to him that he had stepped over a bridge of time into a corner of the elder days, and was now walking in a world that was no more. In Rivendell there was memory of ancient things. In Lorien, the ancient things still lived on in the waking world. Evil had been seen and heard there. Sorrow had been known. The elves feared and distrusted the world outside. Wolves were howling on the wood's borders, but on the land of Lorien, no shadow lay.
Okay, hopefully that left you wanting more. The audiobook is free, and I don't want to necessarily link to it just because I don't know if it's legal or not, to be quite honest with you. I know that the creator can't charge or sell it just because he used copyrighted material from the soundtrack. So, if you go on his website, you know, it's not for sale or anything, but you can easily find it online if you just do a Google search. So that's that. Let's actually get into the finale. So first thing I want to remind you is that you can go to my website at renaissancegaming.net/lotro.html, scroll down to the completionist checklist, check for the Season of Wildermore, and you can see all the quests and deeds for this region, all the ones I did and didn't do, and essentially I did all the quests and deeds here except for those crafting quests, which I couldn't do since I wasn't that crafting profession. Next, I do like to go into the next season with a title pertaining to the previous season, and I forgot to pick one. Dang it, I'm so unprepared for this episode. So, let me see if I can find one here. Not event, not heritage, not hobby, maybe quest. I don't want it alphabetical. I need newest first. There we go. That way I can get the ones related to Wildermore. And I like this one. I like Núrzum's Bane because the whole season kind of revolved around Núrzum. So I'll take that. Kip and Proud Feet, Núrzum's Bane. Very good. Alright. Next up, I do like to upgrade my gear while changing seasons, but I just did that last one. I'm not really going to be changing the gear this time around. I'm just going to kind of go through Western Rohan and go for it. I also do like to go in with a new mount, and again, I didn't pick one. Dang it. Which one should I go with? My favorite one still remains the Matham Society pony. I know I got that one a long time ago, but it's still my favorite one. So, let me just remind myself what it looks like, because it's been a while. Yeah, I like that horse a lot. Anyways, I'll take that one into the next season. Why not? Very good. Next, let's go to my character and look at my... Gosh, what am I looking at? I'm at the wrong thing. I want to look at my traits and deeds and so on. So it looks like I do have a couple of points to spend here. I'm just going to keep upgrading the lasting mark. Even though I haven't been using this, I really need to use this skill because it really just adds a ton of damage. But anyways, let me do that and apply. There you go. And then the Hobbit traits, the race traits are still not going to change. And I'm going to keep running some offensive virtues here as well. So nothing to change there. Finally, it is time to get to the meat of this episode, the deeds. And I want to ask for your guys' help with this. So quite a long time ago, many months or maybe even years by now, YouTube added a feature that if I, in the comments, or I should say the description of this video, if I add timestamps to the video, it kind of breaks up the play bar by section so that people can scroll through the video looking for specifically what they want to find. And so I would love it if we could get timestamps for all the deeds. That way people who are watching this video as a guide to try and figure out how to do the deeds, they can skip the video exactly to where they want to go. And so if anybody would be so kind as to help with that, I would really appreciate it. So maybe if you're watching this episode, just pull up a notepad file next to it and start writing down the timestamps for every different deed. And if you could post that as a comment, I would be very, very grateful, but it's not really for me. It's for all the people that are going to come watch this video, hoping to get some help doing the deeds. So you're going to be helping out a lot of players, and I really do appreciate it. Also, if you're so inclined, feel free to go back to all the previous finales and do the same thing. I know that sounds really lazy on my part to just ask other people to do it. I certainly don't expect anyone to. I'm just saying I would be very, very thankful. And it does take a lot of work, and that's why I actually just don't want to go back and do it myself, because it takes so much work just to record this thing. I don't want to slow down anymore. So anyways, okay, I'm rambling a lot. Let's go and look at all the deeds here. Let's go to Wildermore and complete it, and you can see that I've done all of them. So battles and events. So this is for some of the Wildermore survival quests, and then yeah, these are all for those Wildermore survivor quests, including the Warband 2 and the bounties and all that. The Explorer meta deed, the farms, isolation, these are all Explorer type of deeds, which I'll be going over momentarily. And then, of course, you got some quest-based things. So all the quests, of course, that's what I've been doing the whole season. And then I've got the Slayer deeds, orcs, and mounted enemies, all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start showing you some of the deeds. The first exploration deed is Farms of the Fallows. Garwig gave each of his sons a section of the Fallows as they came of age. Each of them built or inherited a farm on their land, and some were more successful than others at producing goods for Forlaw and Wildermore. The first location is Eadsig's Farm. Eadsig's Farm is one of the larger farms in the Fallows, but was recently abandoned with the attack on Forlaw. Nobody from Eadsig's Farm returned to Forlaw or made it to Thrym's Farm, and are assumed dead. The next one is Garnoth's Farm. Garnoth's Farm is one of the largest in the Fallows, but has been on the decline since Gamoth died to Brooke. It is well known at Wildermore for the quality of cattle raised at the farm. Next is Thrym's Farm. Thrym's Farm is the largest farm in the Fallows, and at its peak was a major supplier to Forlaw and the northern cities of Wildermore. Next is Cuthbald's Farm. Cuthbald's Farm is one of the 3 smaller farms in the Fallows. When Cuthbald died at an early age, this farm went to Garfurth's control, though it suffered due to his focus being elsewhere. Next is Garsig's Farm. Garsig's Farm is one of the smaller farms of the Fallows, and is furthest from the city of Forlaw. The farm's distance from Forlaw is symbolic of the relationship between him and his father. Finally, there is Garfurth's Farm. Garfurth's Farm is one of the smaller farms of the Fallows. Garfurth has always made training for knighthood and protecting Forlaw his top priority, and his 2 farms suffered for it. The next exploration deed is Forlaw Explorer, to discover all of Forlaw's interiors. First, there's Forlaw's Graveyard. You have discovered Forlaw's Graveyard, where many of the noble family are buried. Next is the Mead Hall. You have discovered the Forlaw Mead Hall, Lornsettle, where the forlorn Reeve Garwig awaits his passing. And here is also the Mead Hall Tower. You have discovered the Mead Hall Tower, which arguably has the best view in all of Wildermore. Next is Garsig's home. You have discovered Garsig's home, where the widow Brughild and their son live. Next is Eadsig's home. You have discovered Eadsig's home, where the widow Hearswith lives with their 2 daughters. Next is Garfurth's home. You have discovered Garfurth's home, where the widow Ebba and the 2 orphans live. Next is Thrym's home. You have discovered Thrym's home, where Cinnaberg now lives. Next is the barber in Forlaw. You have discovered the barber in Forlaw, where both man and horse can go for a haircut. Next is the barracks. You have discovered the barracks in Forlaw, where those involved in battle go for training. Next is the basement in Forlaw. You have discovered the basement in Forlaw, which appears to not have been used for some time. Next, there's the auction hall. You have discovered the auction hall, which is the backbone of the market in Forlaw. Next, there's the crafting hall in Forlaw. You have discovered the crafting hall in Forlaw, where anyone who knows a profession can work or train. There is the bank in Forlaw. You have discovered the bank of Forlaw, where most well-off townsfolk store their valuables. Next, there is the infirmary. You have discovered the infirmary of Forlaw, where one goes if in need of healing or supplies. Next is the legendary hall. You have discovered the legendary hall of Forlaw, where noteworthy items are researched and tended to. Next is the Great Tavern. You have discovered the Great Tavern in Forlaw, where one goes for a stiff drink or good conversation. Finally, there is the Skirmish Hall. You have discovered the Forlaw Skirmish Hall, where one can go to train their soldier or to barter with merchants. The next deed is isolation in the Whitshaws. Some folk in the Whitshaws prefer isolation to the company of others. The first landmark is a hut in the woods. Some folk in the Whitshaws prefer isolation to the company of others. Next is the hut in the north. Finally, there is the hut on the plains. The next exploration deed is Peaks of the High Knolls, to discover the peaks of the High Knolls. The first landmark is Bir Tor. Bir Tor is the principal village of the High Knolls, its people savage and strong-willed. Next is Grimnisberg. Grimnisberg is the eastern village in the High Knolls, high atop a craggy peak. Next is Steeping. Steeping is a tall height with a cavern carved into the very top, hidden from view. Next is the Lonely Height. You have discovered the Lonely Height, where a lone man has made his home. Finally, there is Oriald. You have come upon Oriald, which overlooks the Izemir Lake in the center of Wildermore. The next exploration deed is Settlements of Wildermore to discover the settlements of the people of Wildermore. The first settlement is Shilfig. You have discovered the great settlement of the Rithendowns, home of Thane Senegar. The people of Shilfig stand poised to repel an impending assault by the White Hand. Next is Dunfast. The town of Dunfast, a small village full of ordinary peasants, lies silent and empty in this troubled time. Next is Bir Tor. Bir Tor, a wild stronghold in the tors of the High Knolls, is now inhabited by the enemy, its banners defiled by the White Hand. Next is Thrym Redbeard's camp, a makeshift camp led by Champion of Wildermore. The settlement was built recently to prepare the Rohirrim of Rithendowns for an impending White Hand attack. Next is Cedric's camp, a small camp hidden amongst the outskirts of Balewood. Cedric and his men keep watch on the nearby road for sign of the White Hand invaders. Next is Iothet's hideaway. Iothet, a villager from Dunfast, abandoned his home long ago and left his people, coming to this remote spot in Elderwood. Next is Grimnisberg. This small town in the High Knolls once offered a tall view upon Wildermore, but the people who lived here were slain to the very last by the Uruks from Isengard. The next exploration deed is the Path of Núrzum, to discover the sites of Núrzum's destruction in Wildermore. The first landmark is the northern ice spires. Núrzum paused here to get a good look at Forlaw, and his footprints lead the other way. Next is the southern ice spires. It is clear that Núrzum paused in this spot to hunt a messenger from Forlaw and mangle his horse. Next is the western ice spires. Orcs have set up a small encampment encircling these ice spires, letting their guard down in the shadow of Núrzum's presence. Next is the ice spires at Dunfast. Núrzum stood outside of Dunfast and tossed about trees and boulders as if they were child's toys. Next is Núrzum's Wrath. Núrzum carved a path of terror through Balewood, freezing the forest and paving the way for the White Hand invasion of Wildermore. The next exploration deed is the Wilds of Wildermore, to explore the Wilds of Wildermore. The first landmark is the Elderwood. You have wandered into the sprawling wood in the Whitshaws, once lush and green, but now full of wintry skeletons of trees. Next is steeping. You have come upon the high cave upon a tall tor in the high knolls. It offers shelter against the cold winds that blow across the craggy peaks. Next is the Enting Hollow. You have discovered a frozen pond that once was a favored meeting place for the young Ents of Balewood. Next is Stonecliff. You have discovered a rocky outcropping overlooking the limb-like gorge where several Ents have made their home in the wake of Núrzum's destruction. Finally, there is Leaflock's Mead. Home to one of the eldest Ents in Fangorn, Leaflock, this mead is buried in deep snow from Núrzum's passing. The next exploration deed is called These Hostile Lands, to discover where the foes of the Rohirrim dwell in Wildermore. The first location is Fiskworth, now inhabited by all manner of unnatural evil. This abandoned fishing village was once the main source of food for the people of Shilfig. Next is Fusham Doram. This substantial White Hand settlement occupies a strategic location in the Rithon Downs and aims to keep a watchful eye on the city of Forlaw. Next is Kedar Golnok, a White Hand outpost erected recently to scout Shilfig for the coming attack. Next is the Hungry Paths. Snowcats of the high knolls prowl in great numbers on this snowy hill, staving off their prey and letting them die from the cold. Finally, there is Dru Vodakon. Built atop the remains of an elder horn of Fangorn, this camp is now home to White Hand forces in Balewood. The next exploration deed is called Blooming in the Snow. Even flowers and plants can be hardy enough to brave the fearsome snows. When you come upon these fierce little blooms, you feel hope for the shivering people of Wildermore. The first plant is the Wild Thistle. You have discovered a fair thistle blooming in snowy Wildermore. Next is the Wild Foxglove. You have discovered a fair foxglove blooming in snowy Wildermore. Next is the Wild Iris. You have discovered a fair iris blooming in snowy Wildermore. Next is the Wild Herb. You have discovered a fair herb blooming in snowy Wildermore. Next is the Wild Red Mushroom. You have discovered bright red mushrooms growing strong in snowy Wildermore. Finally, there is the Wild Wood Lily. You have discovered a fair wood lily blooming in snowy Wildermore in Leaflock's Mead. Finally, there is a deed called Loved and Lost. Most of the Reeves family are laid to rest in the graveyard outside of Forlaw. Most of his family has been killed recently as the conflict of Wildermore escalates. So I actually went through all of these graves in another episode, so I'm actually just going to paste part of that episode here, so enjoy reading some of these graves for the deed. Here lies Alfred, son of Garforth, and grandson of Garwig. He was the only child of Garforth and Ebba, and passed away at an age of 20. He died at the hands of Núrzum while riding with Wilsig and Cuthard to the Wold in an attempt to seek assistance from the Rohirrim there. Here lies Cuthard, son of Cuthbald and grandson of Garwig. He was the eldest son of Cuthbald and Merywyn, and when they passed away, he was 5. He
He was taken in by Edzig and Herswith. He passed away at the age of 16. He died at the hands of Núrzum while riding with Alfrith and Wilsig to the Wold in an attempt to seek assistance from the Rohirrim there. Here lies Humbald, son of Garsig and grandson of Garwig. He was the second of the three sons of Garsig and Berghild, and passed away at the age of 16. He died with his father and older brother at the Battle of Shilfig. Here lies Grimgar, son of Garsig and grandson of Garwig. He was the eldest son of Garsig and Berghild and passed away at the age of 18. He died with his father and younger brother at the Battle of Shilfig. Here lies Garsig, youngest son of Garwig. He passed away at the age of 37 and was survived by his wife Berghild and their son Garwald. Garsig always struggled under the shadow of his brothers. Cuthbald tried to mentor Garsig, but at times they struggled to get along. After Cuthbald's death, he was deeply saddened and never fully recovered. He went to Shilfig in an attempt to redeem his name, despite Garwig's request that he stay in Forlaw. He died in the battle with Núrzum. So let's go ahead and place his thing here. His sword. You paid your respects to Garsig for his family. Berghild will appreciate your help. Here lies Thrym Redbeard, foster son of Garwig, and hero of the people of Wildermore. His father was Aefall, Garwig's brother, who died while Thrym was young and prompted Garwig to adopt him as his son. Thrym passed away at the age of 34 and never married or sired children. He shared strong feelings with Cinnaberg of Shilfig, and many believed that they were someday to be married, but had not the chance to officially announce their intentions. Thrym Redbeard was the fiercest warrior in all of Wildermore. Garwig's many sons were all good with the sword, but were no match for Thrym. He was known for more than his prowess in battle, as he frequently traveled throughout Wildermore seeking anyone who needed help and offered his assistance. He cared not for payment or for someone's status, and was a true man of the people. He died in an attempt to defend Shilfig from the monster that we now know as Núrzum. Here lies Wilnoth, wife of Garwig. She passed at the age of 53 and was survived by her 5 sons. Wilnoth was a devoted and supportive wife to the Reeve and was a noble for her people. Garwig took pride in instructing their sons on how and when to fight, as she taught them compassion and tolerance. Here lies Garnoth, eldest son of Garwig. He passed at the age of 29 and never married or sired children. Garnoth was one of the strongest warriors amongst his brothers, and in his final act, he single-handedly saved his farm and the lives of the farmers working there. He drove off the mighty Bruick, the largest warg ever spotted in Wildermore, and it has never been seen again. Here lies Cuthbald, second youngest son of Garwig. He passed at the age of 32 and is survived by his wife Merywyn and their 3 children, their son Cuthard, son of Cuthmar, and daughter Ansith. Cuthbald always sought to mentor their youngest brother Garsig. Cuthbald sought to bring out the best in him, but they did not see eye to eye, and Garsig did not appreciate his attention. One day, this got out of hand and Cuthbald was killed by Garsig in a terrible accident while training together. Here lies Edzig, second eldest son of Garwig, and as was his twin Garfirth. He passed at the age of 48 and was survived by his wife Herswith and their 3 children, their daughter Luba, son Wilsig, and daughter Sigburga. Edzig and Garfirth were always inseparable. His strength were in wisdom and cunning, instead of skill in combat like his brother. He distinguished himself as a capable leader of men. He frequently talked to Garfirth and his brothers into doing the right thing and helped resolve conflicts. He led the defense in the battle at Forlaw's Gate and died trying to protect Forlaw from Núrzum. So let's go ahead and place his brother's shield at the grave here. You paid your respect to Edzig, Garfirth, and both of their family. Herswith will appreciate your help. Here lies Garfirth, second eldest son of Garswig, and as was his twin Edzig. He passed at the age of 48 and was survived by his wife Ebba and their son Alfred. Garforth and Edsig were always inseparable. He was the stronger of the twins and saw it his duty to protect Edsig. As he grew older, Garswig took notice of the quality and was proud to make him the guardian of Forlaw. He died trying to protect Forlaw from Núrzum at the Battle of Forlaw's Gate. Let's go ahead and place his brother's helmet here. You paid your respects to Garforth, Edsig, and both families. Ebba will appreciate your help. Here lies Cinegar, father of Cinneberg, and Thane of Shilfig. Cinegar was a cousin of Garwig, and was also a close friend. They frequently sought out each other for guidance on many matters. As a result, this relationship maintained a steady flow of communication and trade between Forlaw and Shilfig, more than any other towns in Wildermore. Here lies Merrywyn, wife of Cuthbald, Garwig's son. She died the same year as Cuthbald when giving birth to their third child, their daughter Unsith. Here lies Wilsig, son of Edsig, and grandson of Garwig. He was the only son of Edsig and Hearswith, who had 2 other daughters, and he passed away at the young age of 11. He died at the hands of Núrzum while riding with Alfred and Cuthard to the wold in an attempt to seek assistance from the Rohirrim there. So quite a tragic tale here in the graveyard. Next up, we have the Slayer deeds in the Wildermore, beginning with the Orc-slayer deed, and the best place to get this done at is going to be here in this camp to the east of Forlaw, in the camp called Fusham Doram. Now you may notice that my level is pretty high here, and that's because I forgot to record this for this episode and started recording the next season, so I had to come back and record this. Next up is Slayer of Mounted Foes in Wildermore, and by far the best place to get this done at is by picking up the repeatable quest called Goblin Rider's Onslaught, and you pick this up in Forlaw from the character Dudok. It's a repeatable quest. It transports you to this instance, and there's an infinite spawn of Goblin Riders. Next up is Slayer of Wolves and Wargs in Wildermore. And again, there is a repeatable quest for the survivors of Wildermore, and there's a quest called Tales as Trophies, and if you pick this one up, you get transported to this area, and there's an infinite respawn of these warg packs with 3 wargs. Next is the Snowcat Slayer deed, and the best place to do this is along a trail in the high knolls. There's a good concentration of them. They're a little bit spread out, but you can run back and forth through the trail and pick up quite a few of these. Next is the Uruk-slayer deed, and there are a couple of options to get this done. So first, there are 2 locations on the map itself that you can ride between. While you're at one location, you're waiting for the respawn at the other. So the first one is going to be at the lake outside of the Lorne Settle in Forlaw. There's a few Uruks hanging around here, and then once you kill them, you can ride down to the next area, which is at the very southern end of the map. There's this ramp with a ton of Uruks, and it actually leads down to the North Crofts. But as long as you kill these Uruk, they count as well. The next option will be to do the repeatable quest for the survivors of Wildermore called Thrym's Farm, and again you can pick these up in Forlaw, and this instance has an infinite supply of respawning Uruk-hai. Finally, there is the Wood Troll Slayer deed in Wildermore, and there are a couple of spots within the Bale Wood where they seem to concentrate a little bit more, so it's a matter of riding between the 2, killing a few wood trolls, and repeating.
Okay, and finally, there are a couple more things to discuss here, and that is going to be the reputation here in Wildermore. So let me pull up reputation, and there's essentially 2 reputation factions. There are people of Wildermore. The people of Wildermore are in dire need of aid, as the forces of Isengard peeled the lands from their very hands. And then there's the survivors of Wildermore. The survivors of Núrzum's ruthless attack wish to rebuild Wildermore to be as strong as it once was. So let me head on over to Forlaw and show you what happens once they're kindred with both of these reputation factions. Okay, so here in Frosty Wildermore, there's this guy, Ethelmund, and he is the reputation barterer for people of Wildermore.
These lands are not to be traveled lightly.
And he does have a few interesting things, if you will. Nothing too bad. Lots of cosmetic things and little shields and weapons. Again, nothing too interesting. Probably the main thing you want to look at is under Kindred for Wildermore necklaces. There are some nice necklaces, and actually, I'm going to be taking this Wildermore necklace of agility, and I did put it into my item comparison spreadsheet. If you remember, I showed that, I believe it was in the last finale, and if I trade out this necklace, I'll essentially lose a lot of my defense, but I'll gain a lot of offense with physical mastery and that agility. So that is a trade-off I'm willing to make, because I am trying to be more offensive oriented since I am over leveled. So I will take that, but it's going to cost me over 1,000 HP just to trade that out. But anyways, I'll take that. So let's put that on. You'll notice my HP dropped significantly, but that's okay because now I can do more damage. And the other thing you want to look at is the travel skills. Of course, it's always good to hoard your travel skills. I'm going to take both Return to Forlaw and Muster. I know. Why do you need two? I guess I don't, but it's just, you know, whatever. Whatever. What else am I going to spend all these coins on? I don't know. And then finally, this guy here is Hunman, and he is the trader for survivors of Wildermore.
Welcome, able wanderer.
And so there's some crafting recipes. You can actually get pretty decent gear from the crafting recipes here, but I'm not going to specifically show all of them. The one thing you do want to take note of is the Wildermore pocket upgrades. So there are some nice pocket items that you can get here. And ideally, I wanted to get this Huntsman's Curio of Wildermore. It would have been a nice, very nice upgrade for me. But the problem is that it requires 30 warband tokens of Wildermore. And the way you get these is when you complete warbands, you get these, I don't know, they look like presents. They look like gift boxes, and you open them and it gives you some rewards, and one of the possible rewards is these warband tokens. So I figured, okay, let me just grind some of these. But if you remember, I've done so many warbands. I've done dozens and dozens of warbands. Remember that episode where all I did was warbands and died 20,000 times? Well, from all those warbands, I've only gotten 2 warband tokens of Wildermore. And so if I were to grind for a full 30, I just don't think that's worth it at this point. So I am going to skip out on this. Maybe I just got unlucky, I don't know. But yeah, those are essentially the main bartering things. And speaking of presents, by the way, I did forget something. I noticed this in my inventory. This 14-year gift box. I never opened it, and I wanted to open it with you guys. So let's go ahead and do that. My account has been active for 14 years. And so what did I get? I got my 14-year frame, so definitely let's switch to that. There you go, another little leaf for the collection. And what is all this? Fabric sun hat with ribbon. Interesting. A little bit more masculine version. And then some willow fireworks. Let's see. Yeah, pretty interesting. Pretty nice little firework. Very good. Alright, so that's the reputation. And let's get back to it. Alright, and that's it. That's it. I'm so excited. I get to start a new season. It's always my favorite time is when I get to start a new season, because I just have hours of content to play and enjoy and not have to worry about editing for a while. But anyways, let's head into West Rohan. I'm going to ride in there, but once we're ready to begin, I'm actually going to meet you back here so I can talk to this guy. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the season and are looking forward to the next fun one. See you next time.